Hey everybody, today I wanted to give you a quick demonstration on some of the behind the scenes magic of brewery business intelligence. We're going to look at extracting data out of source systems and enhancing it for analytics, and how we can do that in a modern analytics framework, which is so much more effective than trying to do some of this data work directly in Excel or some other solution you might be using. So let's get into it. Okay, so here's the screen we're going to be looking at. We're in a program called Tableau Data Prep, and I really like this tool. I'm not going to go too in depth with it right now. I'd be happy to if anybody has any questions on it, but we're going to keep this one at a pretty high level. And the main thing we're going to be showing is data really coming out of your source systems. We're going to enhance it, and I'll walk through that a little bit more. And then we're going to prepare the final data source that we then hook up to in Tableau for all of our data visualizations. And one thing I'll mention is this data that we're going to be working with is demand data, so customer demand. And we're going to be pulling it out of two different systems. So a point of sale system. In this case, it's going to be arrived is the point of sale data we're pulling from. And then we're going to be pulling wholesale data, invoicing out of QuickBooks. And we're going to show kind of how that combines and gets enhanced. So first of all, we're looking at a flow of process. So we're starting over here with our raw data, and we're finally going to end up over here with our Tableau output. And again, I'm going to keep this pretty high level today. So the first thing to notice is we're pulling data from our point of sale system. In this case, we can't connect directly to Arrived yet. So what we're doing is we're just basically hitting a Google Drive file that has some of that data already loaded. And then I can make a direct connection to QuickBooks. So this is pulling in the QuickBooks information. I'll just pop one of these up so you can see what it looks like, but we won't go into all the detail. Oops. Come on. Within each of these little boxes, we're doing various steps in the data transformation process. In this case, you can see some of the things we made over here. We're a lot of times just cleaning the data up. So maybe changing a field type or merging some things together, changing the name, grouping things together. You can see what kind of those look like. A lot of times that's kind of our first step in the process of how we're going to enhance this data. In this case, we have a few different clean steps. You can see we're doing some calculations. In some cases, we're removing fields we don't need. Let's just get them out of here if we don't use them for analytics. And we're renaming things. And one of the reasons we're renaming things is we want to combine our point of sale data, which was coming from here, and our wholesale data coming from here. And that's basically what we're doing in this step, which is called a union. So that says get data out of both of these systems and put it in the same table that we can then hook our analytics up to, so we can see all of the information combined. And if we want, then we could also split it out into each individual thing. So that's kind of our first main milestone, is this union. So that's taking, again, point of sale and wholesale data together. The next thing we're going to do is, because you may have this in your brewery, not all of the items or SKUs or beers or whatever you want to call it in your transactional system, they don't always line up, right? So you might have beer ABC in your point of sale system, which is really the same as beer ABC1 in your wholesale system. And you, as a business analyst or business leader, want the demand for both of those to basically show as one instead of two separate things. So that's basically what we're doing in this next step, is we have a list that then combines all of these beers into what their match is in the other system. And that's what we're doing here. We're basically creating that common item, no matter what system that raw data came out of. Okay, cool. So let's look at then some of these other enhancements we can do. So for example, this customer didn't have some of their dimensional or cost data loaded directly into either Arrived or QuickBooks. But we wanted to enhance all of this raw data with some of that information. So here what we're doing is we're basically just connecting to another Google Drive file, which is pulling a beer style some other beer dimensions, kind of grouping them into maybe ABV levels or other types of groups that would make sense for analysis. And then we're bringing in the costs. So the cost is really important, right? So now we're going to be able to basically get the cost of the beer down to the individual ounce level, and then we can build up from there. So we're going to always get really good cost information, whether we're selling this beer as a taster, a pint, a growler, a half keg, or a full keg. So we're able to get really good cost information. So that's what this step is in here. We're just kind of cleaning that raw data up. And then now this is called a join step. So we're joining that beer dimensional data in with all of this transactional data that we already worked with. And then over here, we're basically doing the same thing on the customer side. So this is for wholesale customers. And so this brewery likes to look at their customers a few different ways. One is by segment. So is it retail? Is it bar? Is it a restaurant? Is it a hotel? So one, they kind of group their customers that way. And then they also do it by geographic region. They do some of their own distribution. So it's helpful for them to know what region around California, in this case, their customers are. So this is some of that customer master information we're bringing in, and then we're joining it in here. And then finally, before we publish this, let me get my face out of the way. We're just doing some final cleanup. So we're doing some final calculations right now. We're removing a few fields we no longer need. We're changing some types and renaming something. But then the basic takeaway is at this step, we're going to publish all of this. So when you think about when this job runs, and this would be scheduled, let's say we run it at 6 a.m. every morning, what it's going to basically do is reach out to all this good new information we have, whether it's coming from a Google Drive or directly from QuickBooks. It's going to run through this job. So every single day, it's going to update all this information, and then it's going to spit out this output. Let me just back up one sec so you kind of see how quick this is. So we're pulling about 225,000 rows of data from the point of sale system. And we're pulling, let's do it here. About 3,000 rows from wholesale. So we're just going to tell this thing to go ahead and run. It's it might take 30 seconds or so, but what it's doing now is it's, again, reaching back out, grabbing all that raw data, and then it's going to enhance that data based on all these different rules and stuff we set in this job, and then it's going to give us that output. And as you can imagine, if you've done some of this stuff in Excel before, and I certainly have, this would be a pretty complicated Excel thing, right? It's going to be easy to make mistakes on. It's going to be hard to run sometimes. It's going to be slow. If you wanted to make a change to it, it's going to be difficult. Oftentimes, you don't have many people in your business who could update a complex Excel sheet like that. So you're really relying on a single person. So when we get it in this systems-based approach, it just runs automatically every day on its own. It doesn't need any human involvement once it's set up. And okay, there we go. I was busy talking, but I think maybe that took about 45 seconds to run that whole job. And then basically once the data source is out here, now all of these different dashboards are hooked up to that. So if we clicked on any of these, I'll just kind of pick one on here. It's going to be hitting all of that good data that we just brought in. So anytime you click one of these, it's always going to have that most up-to-date information. Okay, cool. So I hope that was kind of an interesting look at behind the scenes, what's going on with some of these modern analytics tools. And what it's really doing is using a systemized approach to consume large amounts of data easily, automatically. It doesn't need any human input in there, and it enhances it. It does things by combining it and cleaning it and creating these custom formulas that would be really difficult to manually do in Excel. And then finally, it's going to present that data out that we can connect to it with data visualization tools. So in the world of data engineering, this is called an ETL process. It's extract. So getting data out of the source systems, we're transforming it, and then we're loading it so other platforms can use that data. So this is what would be considered an ETL process. So I hope that was kind of interesting, not too nerdy, but gives you a good feel for how some of this works in a modern analytic systems. If you have any questions on this, or you'd like to see a more in-depth demo with it, I love to talk about this stuff. So please reach out and contact me. My email is jeremy@centralcoast-analytics.com. or you can hit me here on LinkedIn, and I'd love to connect. All right, thanks for your time. Have a great day.